Okay, so this is my trade recap for today's trade. I took it on Nasdaq. I am trading on. Hang on. My chart is on Nasdaq and ES now, futures chart, because indexes chart right now the candles are horrendous. They are still quite bad on futures. But if I just quickly show you, if I go on the 1 minute here, the candles are just atrocious. Like, it's so hard to trade these candles because there's gaps, gaps, gaps. Whereas in ES, they're still bad, as you can see, but they're nowhere near as bad. So yeah, I'm trading ES and Nasdaq future charts, but trading the actual index. Anyway, getting into the trade on Nasdaq, went into the market on the 4 hour, did my top down analysis. Obviously, I looked at the daily as an overview. I just saw kind of where we were at. We had this daily gap that price came into and went up. Order flow was just looking bullish on the daily. Anyway, went on the 4 hour and I was looking at order flow. As you can see, very bullish. Order flow will prove it. We had a liquidity sweep down here. We had we had this fair value gap that price respected and went up. We had this fair value gap and this fair value gap, and price was just basically respecting all these imbalances, not even sweeping liquidity. It was just going past them like a breeze, going up, going up, going up. So yeah, coming into it, I was bullish. I was on the 1 hour, I was bullish as well. But I was only bullish with a deep retracement. I'll explain what I mean. So I thought we had this fair value gap here as a retracement because I had this liquidity. I wanted liquidity price to sweep this liquidity and then come down and retrace into here and then go bullish. So we had this gap here and then we had these lows down here. But because they were quite deep retracements, I was happy trading bearish as well. Even though my overall bias of the day was bullish, the retracements I wanted were quite deep, so I was happy to trade a bearish trade today. So I basically came into a mixed bias. Overall, I thought it was going to be bullish, as you can see it was. But the retracements were so deep, for me, I was happy to trade those retracements. So coming in on the 5 minute, I obviously saw a load of these liquidity grabs here, short-term liquidity here, all these little bits of liquidity that hadn't been swept until obviously this swept these, which was also one of my retracements that I was hoping price would come down to and sweep some of them. So coming into the market, I've got a lot of drawings here, but you'll just have to try and look past them. But coming into the market, we swept these highs here. Here we swept these highs, and that was all times highs. And we came down and then swept some of these liquidity grabs. I think this was the one we swept. Yeah, we swept this one coming down here. If I show you on the 1 minute, a bit easier. So we swept liquidity here, okay, and then because it was quite early, I just wanted the market to settle a bit because we have no news on a Monday, but the rest of the week, Friday we have this PPI, then we have CPI. I'm doing it backwards. Powell speak in 2 days, and then obviously Monday we had no news. I just thought it was going to be a bit of a choppy day, to be honest. But yeah, so I just wanted price to run until 9:50. So yeah, price swept that liquidity. We then had these fair value gaps, which price rejected this fair value gap and had a 1 minute breaker structure on this candle here, which I could have entered on that and got a nice bullish trade, but obviously because I thought that was a retracement, but I just felt like that was a bit too early, and we still had this fair value gap, so I wasn't sure if price was just going to break structure, come up in this fair value gap and then come back down, which obviously it didn't. But I wasn't that confident taking that trade. My plan didn't really allow me to take that trade, so I was patient and I didn't do it. Also, why I didn't take it was I think it was in EQ. Yeah, it was perfectly in EQ, so it could have just come back down. So yeah, that just wasn't that good of a trade. Oh shit. That just wasn't that good of a trade. So yeah, I was a bit patient. We then rejected this fair value gap, and we created this fair value gap here. So we could have gone bullish, but we swept liquidity. So as we swept liquidity here, and it was a neat little sweep, I was looking for bearish trades. I was kind of mixed. I was like, if we respect this fair value gap and then disrespect to have a break structure, I'll trade bullish because the order flow has been bullish. But if we disrespect that, I'm going to be looking for bearish trades. So what happened was we disrespected this fair value gap. I'm on the right thing. We disrespected this fair value gap, okay, with this candle here. Came down, swept liquidity here. I was a bit like bummed out there because I was like, oh, that would have been a good trade. We rejected this. I was hoping we'd come back up, like these candles here, hoping we'd come back up, but it just didn't disrespect this fair value gap and then come back up. It disrespected with this candle. So I was a bit bummed out there. But I was still looking for bearish trades because we had all these confluences up here, and if all these hit, I would have been happy to take my trade because I don't like trading. Obviously, I was trading bearish. I wanted a bit more retracement deeper. But I was trading bearish, but we had a bullish liquidity sweep. But if there's no setups for a bullish trade after that, but it's setups for bearish and the order flow is bearish, even after it has swiped bullish liquidity, I can still trade bearish. But obviously if it's, let's say like here, it swept bearish liquidity and I wanted to trade bullish, but there was bearish setups, I wouldn't allow myself to trade bullish. But here you can't see any bullish setups, so I was happy still to trade bearish. So we had this rejection fair value gap, price came up, rejected this with this candle, and then we had a 1 minute fair value gap which was also in OTE and obviously in EQ, but price came up in this fair value gap, perfectly respected the OTE, and it was bouncing between these two fair value gaps. And because obviously we still had a bit of a mixed bias, if price came up and closed here, I probably wouldn't have traded, or I would have looked for a bullish trade, because obviously we set liquidity and I respected that. Or what I was hoping for is we'd reject this fair value gap because there was both strong like POIs, imbalances, whatever. I was hoping one of them gets basically rejected, and I was hoping this one, and I'll trade it. And what I like is a new thing that I'm going to try is the rejection fair value gap getting respected like this here, but it's easier to look on on the ES. If you look here on the 5 minute, we had a rejection fair value gap and price came back up into it, and then the down candle from it, for like let's say this one, we could have entered on, which on NQ we kind of had that, but not really. We came up into here, but anyway, we came down. We had a 1 minute rejection fair value gap, which was a strong resistance basically. So if we broke that resistance and we broke structure from that resistance, I entered in that candle because we had a massive candle down. We broke the 1 minute breaker structure, which was a strong resistance, and we also rejected the fair value gap. So yeah, I entered in there. I put my stops above these fair value gaps, which were the last fair value gaps to continue the bearish order flow. And obviously if we closed above them, the order flow would have been not bearish, the order flow would have switched. So yeah, that would have proved I was wrong. Obviously quite close to this stop loss, like I was panicking, but we were all good. But yeah, I was perfectly happy. I thought this was quite a good trade considering market conditions. I put my stops on this 15 minute low because we were sweeping liquidity, liquidity. So I just thought we were going to sweep this liquidity. And then I also did it for my 1 hour low, which was just above a 1 hour fair value gap. I thought price maybe would have come down here and tapped into here, but obviously didn't, which it might do later. But yeah, overall a pretty good trade for market conditions. I got stopped at a break even, so I only took 50% of my profits. But yeah, I was happy because order flow was bearish, even though after this order flow was still bearish because there was no there was no bullish confluences down here for price to switch back. So I was very confident with this trade, really. Even though when it came up to here, I kind of expected it. That's why I put my stop loss there. But I did kind of expect it. I just didn't want to miss out on if this, because it was such a big candle. This candle also nearly took my take profit, and I didn't want to miss out on that trade there. So I could have been a bit more patient and waited for price to do exactly here, and then entered here, got a better RR, risk to reward, but it just wasn't worth it because I could have missed this trade and that could have hit my take profit anyway. So yeah, overall good. That's the only improvement I can really say on this trade, to be honest, is being a bit more patient. But at the end of the day, I wasn't to know that it was going to go back into that 5AI gap. So I'm happy with where I entered, really, even though it was only a 1 to a 1.3 and I only got 50% of that. But yeah, happy with this trade. I didn't see anything on ES, really. I mean, I saw these confluences, but I just wasn't happy because look at the state of these candles. But yeah, I'm gonna look more into these rejection fair value gaps and entering off it, breaking through, rejecting it, and then coming back up and tapping into it, because that continues the order flow. So yeah, I'll look into trading some of them. But yeah, overall, very good trade.